The Galactic Council chamber stretched out like a massive arena, filled with representatives from 1,000 different worlds. The air buzzed with countless voices, chirps, clicks, and sounds that no human ear had heard in almost a millennium. Some delegates floated in containment fields filled with methane. Others stood on platforms adjusted to their gravity needs. The diversity was stunning, yet they all shared one thing in common: they believed they ruled the galaxy. Ambassador Thelquin stood at the central podium, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights. He was tall, even by his species standards, with 4 powerful arms that could crush steel. His compound eyes scanned the crowd as he raised all 4 limbs high, demanding attention. The gesture worked. The chamber fell to a low murmur. Esteemed members of the Galactic Conclave, his mandibles clicked rapidly. The translator implanted in every delegate's ear converted his speech into their native language. We have made a discovery in Sector 447. Something remarkable. Something that will change everything we thought we knew about the Outer Rim. A holographic display materialized above the podium. It showed a small yellow star, unremarkable by galactic standards. Around it, 9 planets traced their ancient orbits. The 3rd planet from the sun glowed a dull gray on the display. The Sol System, Thelquin announced, letting the name hang in the air. For a moment there was silence. Then someone in the back started laughing. The laughter spread like wildfire through the chamber. Delegates from species that breathed different atmospheres, existed at different temperatures, and thought in completely alien ways all found common ground in their amusement. The Sol System? Counselor Varnell wheezed from his seat of honor. He was an ancient being, his species having served on the council for 6 generations. You mean the home of the mythical humans? The ghost stories we tell our young? More laughter. Humans had become legend over the centuries. Every species had their version of the story. Some said humans were primitive apes who'd barely discovered fire before going extinct. Others claimed they were peaceful philosophers who'd simply vanished one day. Parents told their children about the scary humans who lived in the dark between stars. It was all nonsense, of course. Just myths and fairy tales. I understand your skepticism, Thelquin continued, his voice cutting through the noise. I too believed humans were nothing more than stories. But we've recovered data cores from that system. Ancient technology remarkably preserved. And what we found inside is disturbing. The laughter died down. Thelquin had everyone's attention now. The cores contain warnings. Not just 1 or 2 but hundreds of them. All saying the same thing: do not approach Earth. Do not engage humanity. Turn back while you still can. Leave this system in peace. His voice dropped lower. These aren't suggestions. They're desperate pleas. The chamber fell silent. On the display, the warnings scrolled past in dozens of languages, some extinct, some still spoken. The message repeated over and over with increasing urgency. Primitive superstition, Varnell declared, waving a dismissive appendage. An extinct species left behind automated warnings to scare away scavengers. It means nothing. The Sol System contains enough rare elements to power our expansion for the next century. The mining operations are approved. In the very back of the massive chamber, almost hidden in the shadows, a young researcher named Lyra felt her heart sink. She'd been the one to decrypt those files. She'd spent 6 months of her life working through the encryption, piecing together fragments, running analysis after analysis. And she'd discovered something that terrified her. The warnings weren't ancient. They weren't automated relics from a dead civilization. The latest update had been logged 3 cycles ago. Someone had accessed those files. Someone had reinforced the warnings. Someone was still there, in that supposedly dead system, watching the borders. She tried to tell Thelquin. She'd written reports, filed emergency requests for audience with the council. But she was just a junior researcher barely out of academy. Her concerns had been dismissed as the worries of an inexperienced analyst seeing patterns in random data. Now, as she watched the council vote on the mining expedition, Lyra stood up. Her voice was small in that enormous chamber. Please wait. The warnings were updated recently. Someone is still there. But her words were drowned out by the roar of approval. Delegates were already celebrating the rich mining opportunities. No one heard her. No one cared about the warnings of some scared kid. The vote passed. Every single delegate approved the mining expedition to Sol System. 40 mining vessels would be dispatched immediately, along with 20 military escorts. They would strip the asteroid belt, harvest the moons, and extract every valuable element from that dead system. Lyra sat back down, her hands shaking. She pulled up the last warning on her personal data pad, reading it again for the 100th time. We are still here. We remember what you did. We have not forgotten. We have not forgiven. This is your final warning. Leave us in peace or face the consequences. The message was signed with a simple symbol. A blue and green planet. Earth. And beneath it, one word in ancient human script. Retribution. Captain Brentix gripped the armrest of his command chair as the jump space portal collapsed behind his fleet. The sensation of re-entering normal space always left him dizzy, but this time felt different. Something about this system made his skin crawl beneath his scales. Fleet status, he barked to his bridge crew. All 40 mining vessels accounted for, sir. 20 military escorts in formation. All systems green. His tactical officer looked up from her console. We're in the Sol system. Coordinates match the archives perfectly. Brentix nodded slowly. 60 ships. More than enough firepower to conquer a dozen primitive worlds. More than enough to handle whatever ancient defenses might still be operational in this graveyard of a system. Begin long-range scans. I want to know everything about this place before we start mining operations. The bridge fell quiet except for the soft beeping of instruments. Minutes passed. Then his science officer spoke up, her voice uncertain. Sir, scanning the third planet now. The one they called Earth. She paused, manipulating her controls. It's dead, sir. Completely dead. Gray oceans, barren continents. Atmosphere is breathable but thin. No cities, no lights, no energy signatures. No life signs whatsoever. Brentix felt a wave of relief wash over him. Just another extinct species, exactly as everyone had expected. The Council had been right. The warnings were nothing but automated systems from a civilization that had destroyed itself centuries ago. Good. Mark it as safe and move on to the resource-rich targets. Let's identify the best mining sites on. Sir. His tactical officer's voice cracked with alarm. We're detecting structures. Massive orbital platforms surrounding Earth. They're dormant but intact. Defense grids, weapons platforms, docking stations. Sir, these things should have crumbled to dust centuries ago. They look like they were built yesterday. Brentix stood up from his chair, walking closer to the main display. The image zoomed in on Earth's orbit. His blood ran cold. The structures were enormous, far beyond anything the Conclave could build. And they were pristine. No damage. No decay. Perfectly preserved. How is that possible? He whispered. No one had an answer. Continue scanning. Focus on the inner planets. Send survey teams to Mars. 3 hours later, the survey team's transmission came through. The team leader's face was pale, his eyes wide with something that looked like fear. Captain, you need to see this. We're on Mars in the Hellas Basin region. We found something. The video feed switched to an external camera. Brentix stared at the screen, unable to process what he was seeing. A memorial field stretched across the Martian landscape for miles in every direction. Thousands upon thousands of graves, arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Each grave was marked with a stone monument. Each monument was carved with coordinates and identification numbers. Sir, the team leader's voice shook. We've cross-referenced the numbers. These are ship coordinates. Fleet positions. Sir, these are our ships. The fleet that vanished 847 years ago. All 40,000 vessels. Every single one is accounted for here. Brentix felt his legs go weak. He sat back down heavily in his chair. They're all here, the team leader continued. Buried with full military honors. The graves are maintained, sir. Someone has been taking care of them. The stones are clean. There are fresh flowers on some of them. Flowers that don't exist on Mars. Someone brought them here. Another team member spoke up from off-screen. Captain, we found inscriptions. They're in our language. They say, here lie those who came in war. May they find in death the peace they denied others in life. We forgive, but we do not forget. Brentix stared at the video feed in stunned silence. His mind raced with impossible questions. Who builds graves for their enemies? Who maintains those graves for 847 years? What kind of species shows that kind of respect to those who tried to destroy them? Orders, sir? His tactical officer asked quietly. Brentix wanted to order a full retreat. Every instinct screamed at him to get his fleet out of this system immediately. But his orders were clear. The Council wanted those resources. The Conclave needed them. Begin mining operations, he said finally. Start with Titan. Then Europa. Then the asteroid belt. But keep full combat alert. And someone keep scanning Earth. I want to know the moment anything changes. The mining operations began. Massive drills descended onto Titan's surface. Collection ships moved into position around Europa's ice fields. The asteroid belt swarmed with harvester vessels. Deep beneath Earth's surface, thousands of miles down in bunkers carved from solid bedrock, alarm systems came to life for the first time in 847 years. Red lights flashed in corridors that hadn't seen movement in centuries. Screens flickered on. Ancient systems awakened. In the central command bunker, beneath what used to be the Rocky Mountains, General Kyle Morrison stood before a wall of monitors. He was tall, gray-haired, with eyes that had seen too much. He'd lived through events that should have killed him 100 times over. Around him, holographic figures materialized. Admiral Diana Webb, commanding Luna Base hidden beneath the moon's surface. Commander Robert Hayes from Mars, where human forces had been secretly stationed for centuries. Colonel Patricia Reeves from the outer stations, camouflaged as asteroids in the belt. Kyle stared at the screen showing the alien mining fleet. His jaw clenched with barely controlled rage. 847 years, Diana said quietly. We knew they'd come back eventually. We knew they couldn't resist. Kyle remembered being 20 years old, watching the skies burn. He remembered the orbital bombardment that turned entire continents to glass in minutes. He remembered holding his little sister as she died, remembered 3 billion voices screaming as one, remembered the darkness that followed. They'd survived through desperation and luck. They'd won through sacrifice and fury. And then humanity had made a choice. They'd gone dark. Disappeared. Let the galaxy think they were extinct. For 847 years, they prepared for this exact moment. No warnings this time, Kyle said, his voice cold as vacuum. They had their warning 847 years ago. They ignored it then. They ignored it now. He turned to face the holograms of his commanders. Execute Protocol Retribution. Across the solar system, in hidden bases on every planet and moon, human warships powered up systems the galaxy had never imagined possible. The hunters had returned to their hunting ground. And humanity was done hiding. Fleet Commander Zexkar sat in his command chair aboard the massive battlecruiser Dominion's Pride, reviewing mining reports. The operation in Sol system had been running smoothly for 3 days. Harvester vessels were pulling rare elements from Titan's methane seas. The numbers looked good. Everything was going according to plan. Then his communication officer looked up with a frown. Sir, we've lost contact with Mining Station 7 on Titan. Zexkar barely glanced up from his reports. Equipment failure. Send a repair crew. Yes, sir. Equipment failures happened all the time in deep space mining operations. Nothing to worry about. He went back to his paperwork, already thinking about the commendation he'd received for bringing home such a rich haul. 2 hours later, the same officer spoke again. Commander, Mining Station 7 is still offline. And now Station 12 has gone silent as well. That got Zexkar's attention. 2 stations failing within hours of each other was unusual. Send probes to both locations. I want full diagnostics. Already done, sir. Probes are en route. 15 minutes later, the probes arrived at the first station's coordinates. The video feed showed nothing. Just empty space where a massive mining platform should have been. Technical malfunction with the probe? Zexkar asked. No, sir. All systems functioning normally. The station is just gone. Gone? A station doesn't just vanish. Check the second location. The probe reached Mining Station 12. Same result. Empty space. No debris field. No wreckage. No evidence that anything had ever been there at all. Zexkar stood up from his chair, his spine tingling with unease. Deploy all available probes. I want eyes on every single mining operation in this system. Now. Over the next hour, his worst fears came true. Ships started disappearing. Not just mining stations but escort vessels too. 3 ships gone. Then 7. Then 15. Within 60 minutes, 20 vessels had vanished without a single distress call, without a single shot fired, without leaving behind so much as a scrap of metal. This is impossible, his tactical officer whispered. How can something destroy 20 ships without us detecting anything? Zexkar's hands trembled as he gripped his console. Send emergency transmission to the Conclave. Tell them we need immediate military support. Tell them. Sir. Contact. Mining Station 3 just reappeared on sensors. What? Where? Same coordinates it vanished from, sir. It's just sitting there. Hope flickered in Zexkar's chest. Maybe this was some kind of spatial anomaly. Maybe the ships weren't destroyed, just displaced somehow. Get me a visual. Send a boarding team. The video feed came through. The station was intact, structurally perfect, but the boarding team found it completely empty. Every crew member gone, all equipment offline, and covering every wall, every floor, every surface, written in perfect galactic standard script. You were warned. Leave or join them. Zexkar felt ice water flood his veins. This wasn't an anomaly. This was an attack. And whoever was doing it wanted them to know. He immediately transmitted an emergency call to the Conclave High Command. Within 6 hours, jump space portals opened and 12,000 warships poured into Sol System. The largest battle fleet in Conclave history. Enough firepower to glass entire planets. Every military vessel within 3 sectors had been called in. Surely this would be enough. Surely nothing could stand against this much power. Zexkar watched the fleet form up around his flagship. 12,000 ships stretching across space like a metal ocean. He felt his confidence return. Then the sun went out. What in the void? Zexkar stared in disbelief at the view screen. Sol, the yellow star at the center of the system, dimmed to a dull red ember. Darkness swept across the system like a wave. Sir. Sensors detecting massive energy readings. There are millions of objects orbiting the star. They're blocking the light. His science officer's voice cracked with panic. It's a Dyson swarm. A theoretical megastructure. It's impossible to build. The resources alone would require. They built it, Zexkar whispered. And they're using it as a weapon. The entire star's energy output was being harvested and redirected. The fleet sensors went haywire trying to track the power readings. Then someone screamed. The moon. Earth's moon. On the view screen, Earth's natural satellite split down the middle like a cracked egg. The two halves peeled apart, revealing what had been hidden inside all along. A weapons platform the size of a continent. Railguns bigger than cities swiveled toward the fleet with mechanical precision. Evasive action. All ships scatter. Zexkar shouted. But it was already too late. Ships appeared from nowhere. One moment empty space, the next moment human warships materializing like ghosts. Stealth technology beyond anything the Conclave had ever conceived. The human vessels didn't broadcast warnings. They didn't attempt communication. They didn't offer surrender. They simply opened fire. The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was an execution. Human weapons tore through Conclave shields like they weren't even there. Their ships moved with impossible speed and precision, targeting weak points with surgical accuracy. Every shot found its mark. Every attack was coordinated perfectly. The Conclave fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't even lock onto the human ships. Their tactical systems had never been designed to track vessels that could phase in and out of normal space. 4 hours. That's how long it took. 4 hours for humanity to dismantle the largest military fleet the galaxy had ever assembled. Zexkar's flagship was dying around him. Hull breaches on every deck. Life support failing. Half his crew already dead. He stumbled to the communication console, his command chair destroyed by an explosion. He managed to open one final channel to the Conclave homeworld. His voice was weak, blood running down his face. Tell the Council. Humans aren't a myth. They're real. They're here. There. A human weapon struck the bridge. The transmission dissolved into static. Of 12,000 ships that entered Sol System that day, only 3 escaped. 3 vessels that had been positioned on the outer edge of the formation, far enough away to jump to safety before the humans hunted them down. Those 3 ships carried one message back to the Conclave. Earth had declared war. And humanity was coming for them all. Lyra stood at the center of the Galactic Council chamber, her legs trembling beneath her. The massive space felt even larger now with every delegate staring at her. She'd been awake for 3 days straight, working through data, trying to find any solution to stop what was happening. Honorable Council members, she began, her voice barely steady. I bring urgent news from the frontier. 40 systems have gone completely dark in the last 3 cycles. Communication blackouts across entire sectors. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Delegates turned to each other, their alien features twisted in concern. Every military fleet we've sent to Sol System has been destroyed, Lyra continued, her voice growing stronger. Not defeated. Destroyed. Completely. We've lost over 30,000 ships. And humanity isn't stopping at their borders. They're expanding. Moving outward. And we cannot stop them. Panic exploded through the chamber. Delegates shouted over each other. Some demanded action. Others called for retreat. The chamber descended into chaos. War Counselor Brixton slammed his appendage against his podium, the sound echoing like thunder. He was old, massive, his species bred for combat over generations. Then we mobilize everything. Every ship. Every soldier. Every weapon. We throw everything we have at them. We crush them before they can. No. Lyra's shout cut through the noise like a blade. The chamber fell silent. She'd surprised everyone, including herself. She was just a junior researcher. She had no authority to interrupt a war counselor. But she had the truth, and the truth needed to be heard. "Please," she said, her voice softer now but filled with urgency. "Please listen to what I've discovered. I've spent 3 months decrypting the original warning files. Not just the surface messages but the deep archives. The historical records. And what I found changes everything." She activated her data pad. Holographic images filled the air above the council floor. Ancient transmissions. First contact protocols. Diplomatic messages written in human languages. 847 years ago, humanity sent out their first peaceful contact attempts. Look at these messages. The holograms shifted, showing translation after translation. They weren't demanding anything. They weren't claiming territory. They were asking, politely asking, to be left alone while they developed their technology. They offered friendship, trade agreements, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. They wanted to join the galactic community peacefully. The chamber was silent now. Delegates leaned forward, reading the messages. But the old regime didn't see potential allies. Lyra's voice hardened. They saw a primitive species. Easy targets. A planet rich in resources with no defenses to protect it. She pulled up military records. Fleet deployment orders. Invasion plans. The holograms showed strategic maps, attack vectors, weapon specifications. The fleet that entered Sol System 847 years ago wasn't an exploration mission. It wasn't first contact. It was genocide. Complete extermination. The orders were clear. Eliminate all humans, colonize Earth, harvest the system's resources. 40,000 warships sent to destroy a species that had barely reached their own moon. Counselor Brixton shifted uncomfortably. Other delegates looked away. But humans fought back, Lyra continued. They fought with everything they had. Civilian ships retrofitted as weapons. Scientists building bombs in basement laboratories. Children learning to fire weapons before they learned to read. They fought with desperation and fury. And somehow, impossibly, they won. She pulled up the battle records, fragmented and incomplete. They lost 3 billion people in the first day. Half their population gone in hours. But they didn't surrender. They kept fighting. And when it was over, when they destroyed every single invading ship, you know what they did? The chamber waited. They built graves, Lyra whispered. 40,000 graves on Mars. They buried their enemies with full military honors. They maintained those graves for centuries. They left warnings, not threats. They asked to be left in peace. And then they vanished. Went dark. Gave the galaxy 847 years of peace. Her voice cracked with emotion. For 847 years they could have sought revenge. They could have built fleets and invaded our worlds. But they chose mercy. They chose isolation over vengeance. They gave us peace. And how did we repay them? She looked directly at Brixton. We sent mining fleets to their home system. We treated them like they were already dead. Like they didn't matter. Like their warnings meant nothing. Ambassador Thelquin stepped forward, his forearms raised. Then we must surrender. We must send emissaries immediately. We must. Surrender? Brixton roared. They're destroying our fleets. They're invading our territory. They're monsters. We made them monsters. Lyra shouted back, tears streaming down her face. Don't you understand? We tried to exterminate them. We killed 3 billion of their people. What did we expect would happen? That they'd just forgive us? That they'd trust us after we tried to genocide their entire species? The chamber exploded in arguments. Some delegates demanded total war. Others called for immediate surrender. The council dissolved into chaos, species turning on each other, old alliances fracturing. Thelquin raised all forearms high, his voice booming over the noise. Enough. Enough. Someone must end this cycle of violence. The chamber quieted. I will go, Thelquin declared. I will travel to Earth. Alone. Unarmed. I will surrender to them personally. I will beg for mercy. Someone must try to break this cycle, even if it costs everything. Even if it costs my life. Shocked silence filled the chamber. You'll be killed, Brixton said quietly. Perhaps, Thelquin agreed. But someone must try. Someone must stand for peace, even in the face of justified anger. The vote was called. It was close. Many delegates voted against it, believing it was suicide. But enough voted in favor. 3 days later, a single small diplomatic vessel left conclave space. No weapons. No shields. No escort. Just Thelquin, Lyra, and a small crew. The ship broadcast continuously on all frequencies. We surrender. We seek peace. We come unarmed. Please respond. We surrender. We seek peace. The message repeated as they crossed into human territory, heading toward the blue and green planet that had become the galaxy's nightmare. Earth was waiting. General Kyle Morrison stood in the restored gardens of what used to be Washington, D.C. The city had been rebuilt over centuries, transformed into something that would have seemed like magic to the people who lived there before the invasion. Trees grew through buildings made of smart metal. Rivers flowed where roads once ran. Technology and nature existed as one, just as humanity had learned to exist with both their past and their future. Kyle looked old, but not in the way normal humans aged. He was 867 years old. His body was maintained by technology that shouldn't exist according to any known science. Nanomachines in his blood. Artificial organs that would never fail. A mind enhanced by quantum processors that let him think faster, remember everything, process information like a computer while still feeling like a man. He'd spent 9 centuries preparing for revenge. 9 centuries building weapons. Training soldiers. Fortifying Earth. And now, standing in this garden, he was about to meet the people he'd sworn to destroy. The alien delegation came down the pathway nervously. Ambassador Thelquin walked in front, his insectoid body moving with careful, submissive gestures. His compound eyes darted around, taking in the impossible sight of Earth restored to life. Behind him walked Lyra, the young researcher who'd tried to warn her people. She looked terrified. Kyle studied them with eyes that had witnessed horrors these aliens couldn't imagine. He'd been 20 years old when their people came. Just a kid, really. College student. Whole life ahead of him. He remembered looking up at the sky and seeing it catch fire. Remembered the orbital bombardment turning cities to glass. Remembered holding his little sister as she died, her body burned beyond recognition. I was 20 when your people came, Kyle said quietly, his voice controlled but filled with centuries of pain. I watched the sky burn. Watched my family vaporize in nuclear fire. Watched 3 billion people die screaming. I've spent 847 years preparing to make your entire galaxy pay for that. Thelquin immediately dropped to the ground, all 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of complete submission. His translator rendered his clicking speech into English. We cannot undo what was done. We cannot bring back your dead. We can only offer ourselves in penance. My life for theirs if that is what you require. Penance? Kyle's voice turned to ice. You think your life matters compared to 3 billion? You built your peace on human graves. Your civilization forgot we even existed. You turned us into bedtime stories to scare children. And now you come here offering penance. Lyra stepped forward, her whole body shaking but her voice determined. General Morrison, please. The people who ordered the attack on Earth are dead. That empire fell 600 years ago. The government that tried to exterminate humanity was overthrown. We're their descendants, yes, but we were living with their lies. We were taught humans were just myths. Ancient stories. We didn't know the truth. Ignorance isn't innocence, Kyle said flatly. Not knowing about a crime doesn't erase it. No, Lyra agreed, tears running down her face. You're right. But revenge isn't justice either. General, please listen. 40% of conclave species want no part in this war. Dozens of worlds are preparing to break away from the conclave rather than fight you. Innocent people who had nothing to do with what happened. You're not just destroying military fleets anymore. You're tearing the entire galaxy apart. Civilian populations are terrified. Children are having nightmares about the humans coming for them. She took a breath, steadying herself. You're becoming what they were. The monsters who came to Earth 847 years ago. Kyle felt something crack inside his chest. Those words hit harder than any weapon. He'd spent centuries telling himself that revenge was justice. That making them pay was righteous. But hearing it put that way, he saw the truth. A hologram flickered to life beside him. Admiral Whitney Park, commanding the Lunar Defense Forces. She'd been there too back at the beginning. They'd fought together through the darkest days of humanity's history. Kyle, Whitney said softly. We built graves for our enemies. Remember? We could have just burned the bodies or thrown them into space. But we chose to bury them with honors. We chose mercy once. We're human. That's supposed to mean something. Kyle looked at the aliens standing before him. Really looked at them. Thelquin, who'd volunteered to come here knowing he'd probably die. Lyra, who'd risked everything to tell the truth, who'd fought her own people to try and make peace. Humanity endures, Kyle whispered, more to himself than anyone else. That was always our real strength. Not our weapons. Not our technology. Not our ability to destroy. We endure and we choose who we become. He made his decision. Kyle extended his hand toward Thelquin. The gesture was symbolic, ancient, powerful. The Treaty of Soul. We keep our defenses. We keep our autonomy. Nobody enters our system without permission. Ever. But the war ends here. Today. Thelquin stood up slowly, his forearms trembling as he reached out to take Kyle's hand. 6 months later, Kyle stood at the memorial field on Mars. 40,000 graves stretched across the red landscape, maintained perfectly for 847 years. Lyra stood beside him, now official ambassador to Earth. Why did you build these? She asked quietly. Why honor the people who tried to kill you? Kyle was quiet for a long time, looking across the field of graves. Because we needed to remember that they were people too. Not monsters. Not evil incarnate. Just people following orders, most of them probably believing they were doing the right thing. War is a choice, not destiny. And mercy is strength, not weakness. He knelt down and placed a flower on the nearest grave. Real flowers brought from Earth, living things on a dead world. We didn't forget what they did. We never will. These graves make sure of that. But we won't let hate define us. He looked up at the stars, at the ships patrolling overhead, human and alien vessels flying together now. Humanity endures. And we endure as humans, not monsters. In orbit above Mars, human warships patrolled alongside conclave vessels. Former enemies, now uneasy allies, learning to trust each other. The galaxy would never forget the day the myth spoke. The day humanity emerged from the darkness. And humanity would never forget why mercy matters, even after 847 years of pain.